On a chilly autumn night, an old banker paced restlessly in his study, lost in deep thought. He reminisced about a gathering he hosted 15 years ago, also in the fall, where his home had been filled with scholars, researchers, and intellectuals. That evening, they had engaged in a heated debate about the death penalty. The guests were divided. Some supported the death penalty, believing it served justice, while others argued that life imprisonment was a more humane alternative. The banker, listening to the discussion, remarked, "I have never experienced either, but if I had to choose, I would prefer execution. It's quick, whereas life imprisonment slowly drains the life out of you. In the end, both lead to the same fate, death." Among the guests was a young lawyer. When asked for his opinion, he said, "Both punishments are harsh, but if I were given a choice, I would undoubtedly choose life imprisonment. At least with that, there is hope. Hope for a change, hope for a future." The discussion grew intense, and in a burst of passion, the banker scoffed, "What you're saying is nonsense. I bet you wouldn't last even 5 years in solitary confinement." The lawyer, without hesitation, responded, "If you're serious, I'll take that bet. Not just 5 years, I'll endure 15. The banker, intrigued by the challenge, agreed. The terms were set. The lawyer would be confined in a secluded chamber for 15 years with no human contact. If he lasted the full term, he would receive 2 million rubles. The banker, wealthy beyond measure, saw the wager as an exciting challenge, something thrilling to break the monotony of his life. He even taunted the lawyer, "Think carefully before you agree. To me, 2 million rubles is nothing, but for you, you'll be wasting the prime years of your life. And remember, voluntary imprisonment is far worse than forced imprisonment because the door is always open. You'll constantly battle the temptation to leave." Now, back to the present, the banker, now old and weary, pondered the meaning of the bet. If the lawyer won, he would lose 2 million rubles and be left in financial ruin. But even if the lawyer succeeded, what would he truly gain? He would have lost 15 years of his life. The wager, in hindsight, seemed meaningless, born out of pride and arrogance. Following the night of the bet, the lawyer was locked away in a small lodge in the banker's garden. The terms were strict. He could not cross the threshold, he could not hear human voices, and he could not receive letters or newspapers. However, he was allowed books, writing materials, musical instruments, wine, and tobacco. He could make requests in writing through a small window, and anything permitted would be granted. At exactly midnight on November 4th, 1870, the lawyer began his voluntary imprisonment. The agreement stated that if he left even 2 minutes before the full 15 years were up, he would forfeit the bet. During his first year in confinement, he suffered from loneliness and boredom. His notes revealed his struggles. He played the piano constantly, day and night, filling the silence with music. He refused alcohol and tobacco, believing they would only increase his suffering. Instead, he immersed himself in books, novels of all kinds, from romance to war stories. By the second year, the piano fell silent, replaced by his deep dive into classic literature. In the 5th year, he resumed playing music but also indulged in wine. He spent days eating, drinking, and occasionally talking to himself in frustration. Sometimes he would wake up in the middle of the night and write furiously, only to destroy his writings in the morning. By the 6th year, his interest shifted toward studying languages and history. His reading demands became so intense that even the banker struggled to supply all the books he requested. Over the next 4 years, he read over 600 volumes. At one point, he sent a note to the banker saying, "My dear benefactor, I am writing to you in 6 different languages. Please have them reviewed by experts. If they find no errors, fire 2 gunshots in the garden to signal that I have mastered them. The banker obliged and had 2 gunshots fired. By the 10th year, the lawyer immersed himself in religious texts, philosophy, and theology. In his final 2 years, he studied science and natural philosophy, requesting books on chemistry, medicine, and even astronomy. He read voraciously, as if he were seeking the meaning of life itself. Now, on the eve of the lawyer's release, the banker faced ruin. Years of reckless gambling and stock market losses had turned him from a powerful financier into a man drowning in debt. If he paid the 2 million rubles, he would be bankrupt. Fear gripped him. What would become of him after handing over his wealth? He imagined the lawyer, still young, living in luxury while he himself lived in poverty, dependent on the very man he had challenged. A chilling thought crossed his mind. If the lawyer died before the term ended, the banker would be free of his obligation. At 3 a.m, while the household slept, he took the key to the lawyer's chamber and made his way through the garden. The air was damp, and autumn leaves rustled under his feet. He reached the small house and peered through the window. Inside, by the dim light of a candle, the lawyer sat at a desk, frail and ghostly. He looked nothing like the man who had entered the wager 15 years ago. His skin was pale, stretched tightly over his bones. His beard was long and unkempt. His fingers, thin and weak, rested on an open book. He appeared as if he had aged a century. The banker's heart pounded. He planned to smother him with a pillow and claim he had died of natural causes. But before he could act, his eyes caught sight of a letter on the table. Curious, he picked it up and read, "Tomorrow at midnight, I will walk free. But before I leave, I must tell you something. With full consciousness and clarity of mind, under the watchful eyes of God, I declare, I despise life itself. I have spent 15 years reading about the greatest joys and wonders of humanity, yet I have come to realize that everything is meaningless. I have traveled through time and space in books. I have seen the beauty of nature, felt the warmth of the sun, and heard the songs of birds. Yet I have also come to understand that all of this is fleeting. No matter how rich or wise one may be, death will claim us all, and in the end, we are no different from the worms beneath the earth. You with your wealth and I with my knowledge will both vanish. What you hold dear, your money, your power, is but dust in the wind. To prove that I mean every word, I renounce my claim to the 2 million rubles. I will leave this place 5 minutes before my sentence is up, breaking our agreement, so you owe me nothing." The banker trembled. He placed the letter back on the table, bent down, and kissed the lawyer's frail hand. Then, without a word, he left. For the first time in his life, he despised himself. The following morning, the guards reported that the lawyer had left the chamber before dawn, disappearing into the unknown. The banker, fearing rumors and scandal, locked the letter away in his safe, ensuring no one would ever learn of the lawyer's renunciation. In the end, the greatest lesson was not about money or imprisonment, but about the meaning of life itself. What do you think the lawyer learned in those 15 years? Was it all worth it? Let us know in the comments below.